Evening, everyone. Richard Dorsey here. Michael Belt, Darren Bear Georges. Welcome to Dialogue 340. It's been a while, a lot of production. You've been seeing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on. Credit to Michael for that. Amazing. Probably been talking to Darren in the comments. Don't fight him too hard, people.
Please.
Tonight, our first episode, we're talking about the state of the VI. We're going to brush on a couple topics, see where we're at, where the community's at, have a conversation, one dialogue at a time.
Sounds good to me.
One dialogue at a time. There we go. So one of the things we're going to do in this show, we're always going to have the ability to poll you, the audience, both with us in the house and online. And we did. So we asked the first question, how would you rate the overall friendliness of people in the VI? And 55% said somewhat friendly. And that's good. It's still, good to know that Virgin Islanders still feel it's a good morning, good afternoon type of place. However, about 30% said it was neutral. And anytime we look at neutral, it's kind of like an on the fence. So why do you think people are on the fence about how they feel about the friendliness in the VI? Are we getting ruder? Are we losing our manners? Can you walk in a bakery and not have to say good morning anymore?
No, because they're going to check you right at the door.
Right at the door?
Yeah, you don't get that mean mug.
A mean mug?
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Michael? You find that people kind of backsliding on manners and decency?
When you ask a question like that, most of the time, sometimes on social media, and, we have our many comedians, they pick up on things and realize that sometimes that tradition of saying good morning, good afternoon, good day inside, anybody home, those type of real cultural aspects of what makes us Crucians, Tonians, and Jonians, So for us, some will say that, yes, in fact, that our manners and our pleasantries have gone completely out the door. And then there's a right side that will say, we still have them, we don't use them all the time. But for me, I personally, growing up, going to Catholic school, going to school, doing everything at hours, good morning, good afternoon, how are you? Really, I was trying to introduce yourself, I was trying to have manners, and I think we still have that. I just think sometimes we get a little lost. In our younger generation, it's probably not as relevant. Maybe it's not cool, but I do think we still try to be as friendly and open as possible.
But are our manners a mask? Like, are we generally nice to people, or are we just kind of following the protocol? Because we have noticed things are really tense in the Virgin Islands, especially since after Irma Maria, domestic violence is through the roof, shootings, robbings, and it's not even, say, bad man alone. Like, girls are shooting people now. Like, that's a wild phenomenon. Like, that's crazy to me that a girl might squeeze a trigger after me. You're seeing more, like, tense situations. So are manners pleasantries, or is there something else bubbling behind the surface?
So I'm going to say this. I think for some people, there's like a forceful nature. So I think some people are going to rebel against that. So I think when you have that forcefulness, some people are going to be like, oh, whatever the case is. But I would say that is a astute point, because I did see a shift in people's behaviors and mannerisms after the storms. I don't think we ever dealt with the trauma of that situation, and some people still live in that trauma because we still get people with blue tarps. We have a housing crisis that's through the roof, literally. So I think there's just this general unhappiness. Like, I think that's why we're talking about it. We gotta talk about what is the actual state of the territory. I think for some people, it'll have varying answers, but I think that what we're talking about is reflected in that. Are we doing it for manners, or is this some kind of outlet to release frustration?
So when I walk around, I notice that some people do have a mug on their face more than normal. Granted, life is a struggle right now. And how you approach someone will automatically give you the response that you give. So, like, if you try to badmind somebody or, like, get angry with somebody, they're going to snap back with the quickness.
With the quickness.
But I still have seen situations diffused with kindness.
That is very true.
So are we to, like, a breaking point almost where, like, if you don't always lead with kindness, you won't get it back?
Truthfully, something we have a problem with here in the Virgin, which is escalating situations, is something that a lot of people try to have us practice when it comes to being out in public, when it comes to being take water spaces, go out to the clubs, go out to anything. They try as much as possible to try and explain to us to try and de-escalate situation because again, when we come with that energy, you'll get it right back depending on what the vibe is. But truthfully, I think we were good once. We were happy once, I should say. I think you raised a good question about it possibly being that type of a mask, and it's not. We haven't been the coconut loving, machete cutting up a coconut, sitting on a beach type vibe, hammock. We haven't been that for a very long time, and I think the Virgin Islands in some shape or form has, forgive me if I can say this, we've lost an identity that we used to have. And again, it comes back to the same thing. I think nowadays people are on edge, people are unhappy, people are lost, they're confused. We can say that we're doing great, to look at all the great things we build, look at all the great things we do, but you have people that don't know if they're going to wake up tomorrow or have something to eat, if they're going to have a job, if they're going to be able to make it to the next job. Some have to wake up with that hope that the paycheck that they're getting tomorrow, which is payday, is going to be enough to make it to the next 2 weeks before they get paid again. So I think as a U.S. Virgin, as a young U.S. Virgin Islander, you see it in every way of walk of life. Again, I do see it. You walk in a bakery, walk in a shop, someone's not happy. I mean, again, we were once, I mean, back in the day, for my time, of course, I'm sure we were proud people, we were happy people. Would you say we had things better?
So I would pull something from my grandmother's memories. She, born in the 1920s, 1930s, I think, she remembered when there were 0 murders in the Virgin Islands. 0. That if somebody got stabbed, it was big news. If somebody got shot, like the whole community fell off the chair. But they had less back then. They had more of a struggle. The fisherman was king. For those who know what I'm talking about, fisherman had like 17 children. Hey, that snapper was expensive, bro. But they had less, but there was still less violence and more manners. So by my grandmother's standards, we have a lot compared to what they had. I mean, even when you look at, and we'll dive into like more of the economy stuff, the average person struggling in the U.S. is still like middle class compared to what global poverty is. So when you look at what a struggle is in the Virgin Islands, I'm not saying a struggle is not a struggle. Context is king. But cell phones, you could still get Wendy's whenever you want. Whopper still ain't turning off unless Whopper turning off. Sorry, Whopper. But there's still like that tension that we're not. Look at some of the crimes we're dealing with. Not just crimes, but some of the casualties. The lady with the 9-year-old child.
Yeah.
That is a crazy, like, where was her mental space for that amount of time for that to happen?
Yeah.
Was it a financial strain? Was it a social issue? Like, we don't know. But to me, I think those are like canaries in the coal mine. For those who know that phrase, when that canary starts dying, miners got to get out. We have people that are not even crying out for help anymore. They're just dropping. So they might still say good morning.
Yeah. So I think part of that is, I think going back to our grandparents' generation, sometimes less is more. When we think about it, like the access to this technology, this overload of information could also have detrimental effects, right? So I think we come with a space where now we have a bit more money, we have these luxuries, but as the saying goes, money doesn't buy you happiness, right? And now we're talking about all these things, these factors like inflation, and now in our generation we got to worry about things like debt, like student loan debt.
What's that? Crushing debt.
Crushing debt.
Crushing debt.
Crushing. Yeah. And it's now that we were sold a dream, right? The dream that we were sold was, hey, go to school, get good grades, and everything should work out. But in actuality, it's not working out to that degree. So now it comes to the unhappiness. You're gonna put your eggs in these baskets, and it didn't work out the way you want to work out, and now you have to deal with these circumstances. And sometimes you may have to work more hours than you really want to. You may not even get to enjoy the paradise. You may not even get to go to the beach the way you want to. Paradise is expensive as well, as we could see. So these are factors that also lead to unhappiness.
Do you remember Hessman syndrome?
How can I forget?
Do you know about Hessman syndrome?
I don't know what that is.
If you remember, explain it, because I want to make sure, because I have my version, it might be
No,
different.
let me let you say your version because I
So-
might have a different version than you.
So from what I remember for Hessman syndrome is like, especially when it played on the partner, like they worked so much, right? They never got to see that. And then the other flip for Hessman syndrome is like, I remember a man that used to like Lyman in Nomex. No, it was Nomex. If anybody remember Nomex? If you wore that green jumpsuit,
that was our stylus.
you know, it had man that used to keep a clean jumpsuit just to go Lyman in.
Yeah,
Like, I've
I
been
know.
out in my former life. I've been out and man is like, you ain't done work? Big man, this is a clean suit. And the Wappa blue suit was just as powerful. And like, but I remember people saying they had nothing to do except sleep when they got home. So working multiple jobs, earning a great amount of money, living in paradise, but you're still not feeling it.
Truthfully, there was an article that came out that talked about the American dream and how that's what everybody comes to America for. But if you didn't know, the American dream costs about 3 million plus in order to really achieve an American dream. And if we take that number and amplify it by coming and living here, trying to achieve a U.S. Virgin Islanders dreams, it's probably astronomically high because like we have so many odds that are going to be stacked against you. So I think we were in a good place. I think when Hovenza was around, I mean, I remember growing up as a kid and watching the Hovenza guys when you go to Ag Fair and they'd be in the Emporium and they would show off all the cool stuff that they were doing. And then I remember the year exactly once Hess closed, the entire feeling that year for Ag Fair was vastly different. It was almost as if something had been gutted out and you could sense it because it was like a dark cloud. Let's use a dark cloud as an example. The version as at that point after Hess closed. So you could really feel it. Go to the Emporium, there's no more Hess, there's no more free earplugs, there's no more free Hess toys that you used to get during Christmas parties.
Man, that fire truck was crushed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get that stuff anymore. And that's true. The Water and Power Authority back in the day when you wore that jumpsuit.
That
meant
blue
something.
jumpsuit, yeah.
Those are the guys that dream Christmas. I remember my grandmother and my mom would tell me stories. Christmas time rolled around. If Christmas Eve was a middle day, maybe on Monday, it was Christmas Eve or Friday. You're going home with ham, you're going home with 6 billion things to work with. Or they making sure if you have to walk Christmas Day or some crazy thing, making sure you are well taken care of. You could step out and be proud. But I think what we don't realize too is that I don't know if everybody realizes it, but at the same time, there are vastly so much differences in economic wealth that people like to say you don't watch what other people have, but it's disheartening sometimes when you say, I want a nice car, but you can't afford it. Somebody else can, but you can't. So I just think realistically, we're in a weird, I think you said it best, we're in a gray area where, especially on St. Croix, we don't know where we're going.
So Hess collapsed on us. Our memory backs us up. And I didn't talk about COVID. Leave COVID alone.
Oh,
Leave goodies alone.
yeah.
Did the happiness gap, so let me say it differently. Did the parameters for happiness close on us? Because 15 years ago, I could have gone to high school and got a job in Hess. I could have been a boiler maker. I could have been a mechanic. I could have been some entry level, anything. I make maybe $15, $20 an hour. Back in early 2000s,
Yeah.
that's money, right? WAPA was still, government was still, and has had such an effect on residual economies. Like, look at Caribbean Automat.
Yeah.
We had Cadillac, GMC. You could have buy a Hummer down here. We had Subaru at one point. You had a Nissan dealership, Acura, Honda. Right now, Caribbean Automat struggle. Sorry, Caribbean Automat. But the Aleman got his Toyota, Dodge.
Uh-huh.
That's it, right?
That's basically it, yeah.
Like, they were expanding, and in Hess job, boom. And another thing I remember too was like the car scene switched out on us. Like all the bad right them disappear. So like it wasn't just the finances from Hess, it was all of like the joys that was around at that time kind of got, you know, diminished and stuff like that. So is the parameters for happiness closing more and more? Are people feeling that squeeze now because there are less opportunities not just to make money but to also spend money?
I would say yes. I mean, I remember when we were working and plotting out our podcast and really just trying to get in that mindset for this first episode, that we talked about it. There was a vast change after S where people have just been exodus, have just been competing in exodus basically of the virgin. I was realizing that they can't follow a dream, or they simply can't afford to live here making minimum wage, making below average, anything annually a year, maybe $28,000 a year. So it becomes that question that I have to agree. I think the happiness gap is closing. And I think that, again, we're in an area where I think people are realizing it's a sink or swim effect, where if I don't do something different and try to get out of this, I am going to sink. I'm probably going to be homeless. I'm probably going to live on the street. And I think we don't have this type of conversations where we can proudly say that I am struggling. I am in a black hole, basically. And I think we don't have a place where we can have that discussion.
It's called Dialogue 340. But I like how you say that, because I remember seeing this meme one time. You know, someone's like, "So how you doing, man?" VI responds like, "My day, man, everything cool, man. Can't complain," right?
Yeah.
But in the back of that person's head, how many things are they worrying about? Are they stressing about? And, you know, this is something we're going to ask you as an audience. You know, like, what are you struggling with? You need to always hit us up. Facebook, Instagram, Dialogue 340. Don't fight Darren in the comments.
Please.
But that's something that I don't think we have the capacity to really ask our neighbor what's going on. And then I could tie it into kind of like some of the things that happen in our neighborhood. I know we're going to touch on, do you feel safe in the Virgin Islands at the end of this conversation? But so many things are happening in our neighborhoods and people are turning a blind eye to it. I know where I live. I know what I hear come New Year's Eve. Everybody knows what they hear come New Year's Eve. Sometimes that's very unsettling, but it's not like we're actively doing anything about it. Don't fight us in the comments. You see what I'm saying? So, like, how much of, "Hey, how you doing? Can't complain," is more of that mask? Is there a way for us to start taking off the mask? And can we, big question, can we trust each other to share that?
So one thing I would say, the way I combat that is I ask a follow-up question. You sure you're okay? Because a lot of times we live in a society where, you know, we're afraid of expressing ourselves, or we just want to say it to like brush it off because it's like platitudes basically. So one of those things that I try to do with those in my circle, like, are you sure you're okay? Because I pay attention. I pay attention to facial expressions. I pay attention to body language. And I'm really generally, you know, I care about people, right? So I think we have to get to a place where we could have those conversations. Because I think, like we said, that we've been through so many life-changing things in the past 20 years. You could even go far back as 9/11. So we have to be able to have those discussions in a healthy way. Welcome to Dialogue 340. But I also think that we really have to have these conversations in a constructive way. Because a lot of times our conversations, when we're just talking about de-escalation, there's the opposite side where we escalate. And I think a lot of times, because we haven't dealt with how to de-escalate or have those conversations where we could disagree healthily, it creates this firestorm that we're in. So now people, instead of, you know, they don't want to put a hand in the fire, they rather draw it back and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm okay. I don't want to get through this right now because I have so much going on. There's so much on my back. You know, I got to carry this. You know, there's so many circumstances that we're facing." So it's just really about, they just point in a judgy bundle and just keep it carrying and keep it trucking.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap up this segment just now, but ending on a positive note. I know a very beautiful person, I'm not going to out them. And one of the things they do from time to time, if they see somebody in the grocery store, they'll just like deal with a bill, right? And they'll call it giving a blessing. And some of the stories that they have like experienced from people like just like out of nowhere, like wow, you changed maybe the week for that person, not just the day. Maybe it might change the month, you know. So I think the pleasantries are nice, but the big question I leave for us as a community is, are we going beyond those pleasantries still? Are we still checking out, you know, are we still our brother's keeper? Are we still dropping off some fish and fungi to a neighbor? Like, are we still doing what the pleasantries are just an introduction for when it's actually that community support? But, you know, now it's time we got to hear from the audience. Before we do, I just want to thank our first sponsor, Media One Productions. I know we look beautiful and crisp and nice on these cameras. Anytime I need something to look sharp and crisp, hail them up. Next time, Media One Productions.
And we're back to Dialogue 340. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michael Bell, and we want to pitch some questions to the audience.
Okay, so in response to the question, which was
How you feel for any of the eyes?
right. Okay, so I feel that's a two-part. So I feel something that you guys didn't touch on that I think may be important is that the demographics is changing. Right?
That's a good point, yeah.
So my experience is I've been there back there about 3 years ago. I see a lot less people saying, "Well, greetings, good morning," that type of thing. Because there's different people living here, right? So I think he asks, is it nice compared to what? I mean, maybe be compared to how it was 15, 20 years ago. Because just the makeup of the population have an effect on whether you see those type of greetings happen yourself. And in my experience, I would say is like, I feel like people are happy. I feel like they don't really greet each other. I've been to places, some government offices or places we want to get help, and I've been in there and say, good morning, good afternoon, and they say nothing back. And I'm the kind of person, I'll say it again to you notice that I'm standing up here. And I feel we just kind of have, like Darren said, people just kind of upset with the situation. So it's kind of like, I just have this job, I just here. I experience this on a daily basis. I'm an entrepreneur myself. So trying to deal with different agencies and different offices to be frustrated to me personally. So I would say that number, which is 30% neutral.
Yeah.
I think the number probably a little higher as far as happiness. Just my personal opinion. I would like to hear somebody else to compare. You're just me, but I feel as though stores, restaurants, gas station, even people just kind of just going through the motion. Here, really what you said. What's going on with you today? Or sometimes the other day I was in the tax office and I asked the cashier if you're having a good day, and she kind of freaked out wow, somebody asked me if I'm having a good day. Nobody really does that kind of stuff. So that's my experience. I feel like people really lost that a long time ago. Maybe normal probably times, but definitely normal COVID, all that stuff.
Thanks for that.
I appreciate it.
I kind of have to agree with him. I think that sentiment has changed. Anybody else has a similar sentiment? Paul?
Good night.
Good night.
My name is Derek Connery. I'm a transplant healer. I've been here about 5 years, and I'm never going to leave. I really love this island. With the people, everything is just what I've been waiting for now. It's at the twilight of my life, and I'm glad I'm here. I do have some things I'd like to say, and some of it has to do with how we train our young people. So when I go in the stores, because I do most of the shopping for my family, I'm in and out of the house. And when I go into the stores, sometimes the people behind the counter are just rude. When you're looking for them to say good afternoon, good morning, and you can't get a smile out of some of them. And it's because we're not training our young people to be sociable. Not just because of, home training, but because it's your job. And if you're in a place like this, tourism, I know, is a big thing for any island. This is an island town, we need tourism. And if people come here and they're not treated well, then I don't want to come back. And if they find some places they can go and get, good service, that makes the world different for anybody. If you walk into a place and you feel good, feel welcome, you're going to come back. So That was just my one thing that I could do. If I could change everything. I was trying to teach our young people, because they don't know that. They're just doing their thing. And we have to train them, and teach them which way to go. And if they don't know, we got to tell them. And if they don't get it the first time, tell them again. So,
Before you go, so where are you from?
I was born
Where's the last place you're from?
Denver, Colorado.
What was it like? Because Kyle asked, comparing it. What was that general vibe between the community you left and the community in the Virgin Islands? What differences do you see? Are we happier? Are we more pleasant, less pleasant?
I'd say we're more pleasant here. And that's what got me spoiled, because when I got here, everybody would say, good morning, good afternoon. If I pull up to a stop sign, people let me out. You don't get that in the States.
I agree.
Nobody lets you out. You better make a way some kind of way. So I love that about the island. But in some instances, especially when you go to the stores, young people don't know how to work. So it's not personal. It's not because they're mad at me. They just don't feel like doing it, and they're standing there like, yeah, come on. But for me, I believe that we would fare better if we saw a little bit more initiative from our, people that are serious.
I got you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
So one thing I thought about, because he said young people. So as a guy that work in that kind of industry, I think there's a generational difference as well too, because really at that point, we're talking about Gen Z. And I think one of those things that that I've noticed as a pattern, I think that's where the technology comes into play, and they're less sociable because of that. Funny you say you think social media you should be sociable, but they actually are less sociable because of social media. So I think those interactions are missing. We could even go into where you could say for later topics, like if, we're in a space right now where mommy and daddy have to work additional hours, there's less family time, less time to socialize, less time to learn these manners and social norms. So we also got to take account for those things. So those are just ideas that spark in my head.
Yeah. Let's talk dollars on a sense.
So, in our next topic, we're discussing primarily basically what we're trying to get into with our team here at Dialogue 340 is really jobs and money matters, which is really a topic where we really want to get into the discussion of what's going on in the Virgin Islands in terms of trying to find employment, having a job, and why money matters in a economic society that is very much struggling, if I can use that word, in many, many ways. So I guess I'll open the floor to our online viewers and to our viewers here personally. How do you feel about trying to find jobs in the U.S. Virgin Islands that meets your needs or criterias? Off camera, you guys can raise your hands if you want to. It kind of helps me build a conversation a bit. Nice. Please, medbite.
You could keep it push clean.
So I think realistically where we are in the Virgin Islands, it's kind of harder to find jobs that work in our favor in today's society. And considering the amounts of data that proves that there is a vast drop between the people that have and have nots in our society. What do you guys?
So if you just talk about jobs, right? One of the scariest things that happened a few years ago, I was looking at some Department of Labor numbers, and they projected no growth in data and technology in the Virgin Islands for that year. Zero growth. We're in the 2000s. There are unicorns that are like taking over the world. The Googles, the Ubers, SpaceX, Teslas. Zero growth in data and technology?
But I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
From my own experience and getting to see a lot of things from a different perspective, we're a very paper-backed analog community, and it actually has, what's the right word to use? It's actually caused us to slow down progress because of that. We're very much like Japan. We're all about paper. We're all about print. We're all about we're now trying to get online. You notice now you can do lots of things called portals where you can go and do this and do that within the government, file various things. You still can't file online. You still got to file.
Like somebody please app the VI, like app.
And those are discussions that are being had, but when we have them, we tend to go back to, well, you know, we're gonna need some paper, we're gonna need to be able to write. So we're in that trap of where we're stuck in this analog time, so we're struggling and trying to run in order to pick back up into that technological world that we now live in.
So you know what? I will add this point, right? I think the Virgin Islands has a very unique dynamic. We appeal to be progressive, but in behavior and actions, we're quite conservative.
I would say we're regressive.
That too as well. So I was going to say, one of the things we was planning for this conversation, one of those numbers that jump out to me, the average age of citizens in the Virgin Islands is about 45. So we're not retaining the young people because, like you said, there's zero jobs for that sector, right? We're in a different age. We're in a digital age. We need
zero growth.
Yeah, zero growth. Sorry, yeah, exactly. So we're in a digital age, and we have a new generation. You have the millennials, and we kind of getting old, and then you have the Gen Z. This is the kind of stuff that we have to get into.
We're somewhere between Facebook and the fax machine. I don't know why. 2024, man, are still faxing things. Like, it was so bad. We recreated a government form. I'm so sorry. Into a PDF so that we could fill it out easier because they sent us some like Xerox copy from like 1992. But before we get too far, we got to talk dollars and cents. You talked about jobs. 70% recent stats from our governor, 70% of the Virgin Islands economy is dependent on tourism. If I don't want to be in the hospitality sector, then I'm supposed to go and do construction. If I don't want to do construction, what am I supposed to do? If I can't get a government job, I don't want to be in hospitality, and I don't want to be in construction, what am I supposed to do?
And I think that is a large question that keeps getting asked with no answer or resolve. What am I supposed to do? We want to push education. We want to push all these great ideals that help build the U.S. Virgin Islands. But in realistic terms, it in a way stagnates us because you have lots of people that probably aren't built to do construction, aren't built to do high intensity. But there's someone I know as a family friend. He majored in IT and he ended up working at Office Max for years until he decided to take a risk, realizing that this is not where he wants to be, and decided he would now get a job. He now works in a very cold state. I won't say where, but he now works and he's actually happy for a change that he gets to use his degree in IT, which he loves. Now, someone would have told him go to BIT, but not all the gates and possibilities are open. Not everybody secures a government job. And I think a discussion that's always had, and from my own experiences of being a GBI fellow, some people don't take jobs here because of pay. It's not enough to live on. It's not enough to function or to feel like you have a cradle. Like you're able to say, I got a job, I'm making it good, I can do some things, I can diversify myself. Nah, you gotta worry about paying what bill. Sorry, Wapa. You gotta pay your rent, you gotta make sure you secure your groceries, you gotta start making sure. And if you have kids in the mix and you have a family in the mix, it becomes more pressure on you to make sure that you bring your own bread, and that the bread is being dispersed evenly.
So let's back that up. Facts, not fiction. You did say so. Right now, the Virgin Islands, cost of living in the Virgin Islands, like the BER report said in 2023, that if you are a single-parent family, you need to make at least $43,000 without health insurance, right? However, according to the U.S. Census, right now the median household is $44,000. So we're kind of around teetering, but minimum wage is still $10.50, right? Correct. So if we don't find a way to both diversify the job opportunities and increase the pay salary for those new industries, we're gonna not just continue to price out each other, right? Because gentrification happens anywhere there's a hot spot where people want to get to. But if you have a strong economic base in your community, you can't gentrify it that easy. The other part that I want to touch on before is, I don't want to use this term because poor is a state of mind, right? But we have a lot of broke people in the Virgin Islands. Ladies and gentlemen, in-house and online, I'm reading this. The average income among families with children living in public housing in St. Croix as of 2020 is $15,503. BER said that you need, for a single parent family, you need at least $43,000 without insurance. But you're looking at $15,000 a year. Make that make sense for me, please, somebody. If we're looking at a gap of maybe $30,000 for someone who's in the hustle and in the struggle. And I think this is where that dissonance exists between having a tourism, come see me, everything is beautiful economy versus, what was Kids Count said the other day? Like 33, child poverty is at 33% across the territory, which is higher than the U.S. average at 17%. I ain't trying to down nobody's mood. I ain't trying to vex anybody. But I'm just saying, like, I think we're painting a picture with different colors sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, and how do we start to bridge that so that we have a way forward?
So it made me think about something. So in the strength of any economy is how large or how the gap is with the middle class, right? So let's talk about the middle class for a second, right? So we just talk about the medium income for Virgin Islanders in a household is $40,000, right? In comparison to our brothers and sisters in the States, that is $67,000. So that's a $27,000 difference, right? Let's talk about, if we want to say we want to really get into that middle class, that middle class, right now, and this is the 2020 census data, it says that in households that make greater than 100,000, only 16% of that exists in the Virgin Islands. So think about it, right? Whether we talk about single or, double income or more than that, only 16% is producing 100,000 or more. We broke.
Yeah, we're not poor.
And think about it, like, our economy exists when you can use disposable income. And what I mean by disposable income is after you pay your WAPA bill, you pay your rent or your mortgage, you fill up the fridge. Well, these days it's a little tougher to fill the fridge, but you get the point I'm making. When you have a little money to spend, it goes in the economy and then it multiplies where you spend it. The thing that I'm going to say this, and I said this many times, trickle down economics does not work. What I mean by that is you give breaks, throw some money at companies, it does not equal to jobs. All they do is take the breaks and run with it. Going now to diversification, tourism cannot be the main product. It's a very volatile market. We benefited from COVID, but like we see in the news, we might be possibly going to World War III. What happens when travel slows down?
Again,
because it happened before.
because we took a hit.
We took a hit. We got to diversify. And also, diversification could come from sustainability. We have agriculture. We can do it. We need to sustain ourselves. So all I'm saying is that I'm not blaming anybody. Just make sure that part is clear. All we're asking for is diversification.
So we got boss to the next segment because time running.
But there's something you always say, and it stuck with me for a while, that how we cannot continue to promote a tourism industry that we cannot withhold. And it always sticks to me because we were supposed to be the production. We was really supposed to be the industrial complex. And St. Croix was picked to be that. St. Thomas was supposed to be like the leisurely, enjoy your time. I love seeing like those old school videos and those pictures of what back then used to look like. It's always interesting to me. And then now when you read like TripAdvisor, you read all these different things that talk about come to the USVI. It's always, I usually come to St. Croix because it's quiet and I love the beaches and I love the vibe.
And the food tastes better.
Yeah, exactly. Not much to St. Thomas.
my brothers and sisters over there.
I'm just saying, did I go back with our bread? But go ahead.
Exactly, right? But it's weird that you would think that we would spend more to make sure that not only can the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands on St. Croix can enjoy this paradise that we have, but we would make sure that we have a tourism industry that very much continues to roar an engine in St. Croix. I mean, we usually only get good looking and we fix up really good when it comes time for Crucian Christmas Festival, Ag Fair, where we really want to be out there to show that Crucian Pride is out. But as soon as the door closes, come the first week of January, keys throw away, lock up, we done. We go back. Frederickson goes back to looking like a ghost town. I don't know if you guys have ever driven like after
Saturday West. I
don't know if you've ever driven and then you see the lights come off the poles, you see the fair, everything for the village come breaking down, and it just dies. It becomes this like ghost town. There's none active. I mean, of course we have like little things that are going on, except but it's the energy and the feeling that you get from our projectors, this festival goes. And yet we bring a lot of traffic. I mean, this year was insane trying to drive and trying to find parking and trying to have and it was just an amazing opportunity. But then now when you go to St. Thomas, look at South St. Thomas, and this is not like being biased, it's just something you see because you know it's happening. You got new hotels coming, you now have a lot of dope things. St. Thomas has a night like that St. Croix should have had, but recently done.
And that's fine, but we just want to thank First Choice Sounds. You hear us, you sounding nice. First Choice, give thanks. Let's talk to the audience right now.
Hi everyone, so my name is Abigail. On the topic of the whole economics, money and everything, it brought me back to undergrad. I had an amazing instructor in UBI and he always told us good economics is horrible politics. It will never see eye to eye. And when we were discussing the increase of the fact that minimum wage is like $10.50, he always, because you know it's a whole circle, right? Recession, and the whole 3 R's, right? So I did a quick search, and this is just the straight results from Google. It says raising the minimum wage would increase the cost of employing low-wage workers. As a result, some employers would employ only fewer workers than they would have employed under a lower minimum wage. However, in certain workers or in some circumstances, employment could increase. But what stuck out the most for me is that, yes, increasing it, but everything else is going to go up. Rent, the cost of groceries, gas. So when you're giving people more money in their pockets, they're not going to see it. And then eventually that will just lead into that struggle between supply and demand. Are we able to provide enough for the economy in all aspects that the people are wanting it to? And then naturally it's going to take a turn for the worse and then go through that entire circle. And I'm saying this as a young adult, right, who's currently working 2 jobs. I have my full-time job, I'm a government employee, but I also have my part-time. I decided to pick it up because I went back to school. But even in my state, I am feeling like it is hard to make ends meet and actually attain my goals. Attain my goals as in becoming completely self-sufficient. Big people purchases, own house, own land, etc., right? And it's very hard and it's almost mind-boggling reflecting on myself that I feel like that compared to other people who's not afforded that type of opportunity or don't know where to start and how hard it is for them. And then also bearing in mind, okay, natural economics, when you raise the prices in this, or you get more people money in their pocket, it's going to continue looping around. So the question is like, okay, knowing this is how the turn of events is going to be, what can we do to help us, because we're all going to feel it eventually, prepare to be sustained in that situation?
Quick question. Who was the professor that told you that? If you want, you don't want to get a name? Okay, fine. So I think, like you said, you can't just simply increase the minimum wage. You have to have the industry that feels that, right? So you can't, because if you take money from one place, it's just going to circulate in a different place, and like you said, supply and demand and stuff. So we need different industries. We need to invest into that. Also, that sustainability, like I said, for me, agriculture is a big thing. Well, if we invest in agriculture, then in that turn, we have people that can work on those fields, and also, we're just saying theoretically, should drive the cost of food down because we're not importing every single thing here. So those are things you got to work on. So for market industries, we talk about technology, no growth. We should have those kind of jobs. But I will also say this, and I'm going to apologize to WAPA.
Sorry, Wapa.
But WAPA, you're kind of the biggest depressant of the economy.
That's hella depressing, but that's fact, not fiction. One of the things that you touched on, because we need to talk about health. 97% of our food doesn't come from the Virgin Islands. So that means, and I'm not hitting any grocery store, but we know who they are. They hold my food. I treat them like my refrigerator. I keep my fridge empty and there's shelves full, and I take out what I need when it's time. If we could dive 10% into that, imagine all of the money that comes back into the coming. But your health and your wealth starts with your plate.
Exactly.
We're going to talk about health right now. So we asked the community, our audience, there we go. How easy do you find it to access healthcare and services and maintain a healthy lifestyle in the Virgin Islands? 67% of you said it is somewhat difficult. I have some very weird and half alarming stats for that, but I just want to think about that for a second. Like, health in the Virgin Islands is something you don't have the luxury to play with because we are a waterlocked location.
Yep.
I cannot drive to the better clinic in a different county. I cannot take an easy flight to a different location that has a better, I don't know, foot clinic if I had like foot problems. So because we don't have that option, it's very important to make sure that managing our health is of the utmost importance. But that we notice that you have such a high rate of diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer for a very small community. I'm pretty sure everybody, show of hands, anybody know somebody with cancer, diabetes, or high blood pressure? Why? I'm leaving out.
I will say, I'll crack a little joke. Too much sauce, not enough salad is.
Break that down for us, man.
So I'm saying, like anybody, when you go to a doctor's office, they always say, your lifestyle determines your health. So what you put in your plate and you're consuming, as far as be it for me, because I'm the heaviest dude in this set, but when we eat, okay. But I would say what we eat determines our health, right? So when we have to import everything, God knows what additives or stuff that's added to it. And because we have these low amount of choices as well too. And if we're being honest, culturally our food is not the healthiest. We like it, it tastes good, don't get me wrong. I will eat that fried chicken leg and Johnny cake any day. But it's probably not the best thing for my long-term health.
So 12,000 Virgin Islanders are suffering from diabetes, right? When I read that number, I said, that's a little high.
That's like 20% of the population.
14% of the current population
Oh.
is suffering from diabetes, right? And there were some funny things in the news the other day. I am not picking on anybody. This is what they had in the news too. Fight Darren in the comments. A nurse practitioner at the VI Diabetes Center for Excellence said, Ozempic is something people in the States take into diabetes.
Yes, that is coming up.
Father said, when it comes to our patients here in the Virgin Islands, for some reason, they do not like to lose weight. Sometimes say, I rather not take Ozempic because it's going to make you lose weight. It's in the consortium. I didn't make this up. These are the statements you can read for yourself. By Darren in the comments. Why would we even have that as a comment from a health practitioner in our community?
I think it's a cult. What I wanted to say is a cultural thing for us as U.S. Grizas or Harding people. When it comes time to have special occasions, yeah, I already know you're probably going home with 3-4 plates. I mean, we're big on maybe not big now. We've changed a lot, but back in the day, we were very big on your grandmother, somebody cook up, for 4 or 5 people down the road, getting a plate, or call up and tell them, call the mechanic, call somebody who do something for you, tell them. Back in the day too, if you were building up your house, you feed your contractor. So I think it's ingrained in us, like we're very hardy people, and I think that's why we kind of are in that type of suggestion with our health not being where it is. But I'd like to pose a question to you though. If we were to I like what you said about, I really like what you said about us diversifying and getting into agriculture. But there comes a point where there are rules and regulations that we will have to follow. We're not all the biggest, especially as local islanders, about following the law per se. So I think when it comes down to that becomes a big thing. We have the Food and Drug Administration. We're going to have to definitely make sure we follow that. We're doing things like that. And in certain ways we have to package, certain ways we have to treat our products that we're going to be using and feeding ourselves. Of course, maybe there's a way for us as being a U.S. territory. We have to... I have a master. I love what she says, like, take what we have, what we've seen in America, and VA to make it work for us. So I think that's one of the ways where when it comes to our health, we might have to consider really taking what we see in the U.S. and Virgin Islands, that works for us. But I really think we're hardy people. So I think when it comes like Ag Fair, I ain't no shame to this. No, I'm not judging. I love Ag Fair. I'm a die-hard Ag Fair person. I love it every year. I mean, bro, plates of food, plates of coke.
Man, I feel like you're judging me, man. Sorry, big brother, I got to take a couple
that is so ingrained in our culture that it is hard to be like, I want to try and be a little healthy. Of course, during Christmas, festival, carnival, it don't matter. We want to have cook up big and have a good time. I remember you saying, all we do for Easter is eat. Because that's just ingrained in our thing. When it comes for them special times, that's what we eat and we have a good time.
But it's not, I used to say Caribbean killer cuisines. It's not just fight Darren in the comments. It's not the Caesar rice, the shoe chicken, the big macaroni.
Is it?
I don't think that's the problem. And I'll see why. The foods that our grandparents gave us sustain them. But they had a lot of hard work. You needed all those carbs, you needed those proteins, you needed those fats to sustain you when you're doing hard work. We're not doing, on average, we're not doing hard work.
True.
But then we're still eating like we're working hard. Here's the kicker. If you want to eat El Sol, hit me up with some Johnny cakes.
Mofongo too.
Exactly. You want to eat a plate from Rosie's, hit me up with that cancan rice. Yes?
For you, what's the line expectancy for Virgin Islander?
We're going to Google that real quick and come back. We'll ask you to come and talk about that. I don't think those places are the problem and what they serve. The problem is when you combine our sedentary lifestyle with our heavy Caribbean diet, and then you add KFC, McDonald's, Wendy's. So if you're eating that for breakfast, then something else for lunch, and then like it's all heavy, dense, high caloric food, and we're not moving and we're not grooving, then you're gonna get what Dr. Julius Sheen said, Executive Director of the Diabetes Center for Excellence. Write them in the comments. 71% of people with diabetes in the territory do not eat the recommended number of fruits and vegetables. 35% are obese and 57% did not friendly, did not get the minimal, not maximum, minimal amount of exercise. Being thick is sad.
And I could want to tell you something about that. we work, and I think it comes back down to our jobs. I mean, I can take from experience, seeing what I see on a average basis. You are owned by, I'm not bashing, by the way, I'm just stating it's a fact. You have an 8 to 5. You are owned there. You can't just, and in the States, we have these awesome ways where the government loves to push, take your hour, take your 2 hours, go out, work out, and come back, do what you got to do in order to function. We can't do that here. We literally have that 8 to 5, you're locked in by, I can use me as an example. I'm locked in from 8 to 5. I'm in meetings most of the day. I have to will myself to make sure that I get myself to the gym by 5:30 and I leave by 7, because that's my way of trying to make sure I can stay in shape. That's just me. I need that. When I was in college, it was boxing almost 3 to 4 times a week, literally back and forth. Best shape of my life. But yeah. Right. No, that was such a good way for me to stay in shape. But then I was such in a slump because I kept trying to think of like, what can I do? What can I do? That literally was taken away from me because I have to work. I have to do what I gotta do. So I think that like that's part of the problem why a lot of Virgin Islanders can't work out. Not to say that now you do have things in the government in place where you have like Omada Health. That's great. And then they're trying to do like health exercises for employees and government employees as well to try and help with that issue. But again, you have to ask yourself, after getting ragged down, you get yelled at, maybe you work as a cashier, you get yelled at, how this ain't right, whatever. And you have to pop in meetings all day, we hear people complain and you do all this different stuff. Do you really have the energy to go home and sleep?
So the emotional, mental, and we got to hit the next segment just coming. We're going to ask the audience for some points. It's so taxing to be in the Virgin Islands as a Virgin Islander that we can't enjoy the beauty of being Virgin Islanders.
I think so.
Let's hear from the audience.
I asked the question about the health situation in the Virgin Islands, and I know myself, I'm almost 70, and I've heard this from my doctor too. There are not the facilities here. My husband had a heart attack a couple of years ago. He had to be blown off to Florida, right? Because the facilities weren't here. When I have different problems, I have to go to Spainland, to get help. And my doctor once told me that her father wanted to come down here to live. He was in Texas, and she was like, no. And I said, why? And she said, because he's older and there are no medical facilities here. And she told him, try to come in the summer, have a good time, but other side, 6 months here, 6 months there. And that's a real, reality thing, that just some of the facilities that we need for elderly people anyway, and the whole thing with mental health. There's no facilities here to counteract that or help, whatever. So it's just some of the things that aren't here. But on the other hand, it's wonderful here. Like my husband said, I love it here. I wouldn't move for anything. But I can't think of a single state I'd move to, United States, because there's so many problems there, and it's just so much. I love it here. But the things that we do, we're talking about, some of the things we can maybe be looking at are things in health. The only thing to do is this or that. What about the health situation? We know that you need more mental health workers here. We need more facilities that deal with daycares, for people. And so, in addition to technology or whatever. So the sustainability of food, right? The rules with that. So there are a lot of things that can happen here that I see that will be good. It's just a matter of looking at it. And the other thing I wanted to say was that, not just with the healthcare, I think a lot of people, going back to the first question, I love being in the Virgin Islands, proud there. But one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of the comments, the negative, but we aren't doing whatever, that, like you were saying, comparatively speaking to what? I mean, I go to the States, and you can't really say that this is worse here in the Virgin Islands than it is in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There's crime in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. There's the same problems that are here, the obesity, the problems with black people and people of color, and their food and the way we eat. That happens in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, too. This doesn't happen here. But I think the problem is that we get into this tunnel vision of it's worse here, or I'm going to only look at it here, and so I'm not going to consider the overall thing, versus that it's a problem everywhere. People are unhappy everywhere. People are mean to each other everywhere. People are rude to each other everywhere. So it's not just here. It's just that we're here, we're focused on it,
Yeah.
think about it. But again, and sometimes we take this whole, these different research pieces, and we act like it's true. To tell Michael, the whole idea about black on black crime, that's not a thing. That's something that that is not a thing. There's never been any research that shows there's more crime in the black community of black on black than there is with China on China, than there is with Mexico on Mexicans, than there is with Asians on Asians. No thorough study has been done of that. But because we kept hearing that and we internalize it and we think, with black on black crime here. No, it's no such thing. But again, I'm not going to talk about that, but I did want to say that one of the things that I hope that we can look at is what you're doing here, the media piece. We need media and personalities. We need to know what's going on, not just sporadically, but on a continuous basis.
So we lost. And then forget, thank you for keeping your crib notes alive. We lost the Avis, right?
That was so sad.
We lost it. A lot of reasons. I will not go on the record with my personal opinions why we lost the Avis, because I missed the Avis, for those who don't know, right? Daily News, ? Fight Darren in the comments. So, outside of losing the Avis, the Daily News, we only have 2 other outlets. One, how old is Consortium?
No, it's probably over 10 years now.
Almost 10 years?
Almost 10 years, maybe.
That's it.
But I'm talking about media as far as television, too. Yeah.
Oh, but we lost that as well. Channel 8 News, big question mark. We've lost TV2.
Yeah.
We lost TV2. So we're losing media.
Yeah.
And that's Dialogue 340. Come join us. We're losing the ability to think like a community and talk like a community. And we have a lot of radio stations. I think for our location, we have too many radio stations because it's almost impossible to hear everything. But the written word is so powerful because it forces you to think critically about what you want to write, and it forces you to think critically about what you are reading.
Talked.
Preach it, sis. So what I've saying to you is that when you start to lose news outlets, when you start to lose news publications, you lose the ability to both be opinionated and be educated about what's happening in the community. And we're not even talking about certain publications only like to publish certain things. That's just at the whim of the editor and the owner, and that's fine. But in the U.S. mainland, you can pick and choose your publication to get the information that you want. We don't have that luxury down here. So being a former newsie, I have to read the Daily News, the Consortium, the VI Source every morning to get a rounded understanding of maybe one topic. But,
You're talking about a plug for UVI newspaper, students, online newspaper, UVI Boys.
Please send me the link. Michael will send the link. Thank you so much. Ladies, hi. I have not forgotten. Please join us. Dialogue 340. The stage is set for you. Hi. Spamming.
We welcome you.
No problem. Michael, up, down, left, right. You have the stat for her?
Yep.
All right, cool.
So to answer your first question, it is 80 years old as of 2021 is the life So the question we were asked by the audience is, what is the life expectancy here in the Virgin Islands? It is 80 years as of 2021, according to our research here.
And based on some of the data that we did, it looked like it declined a bit within the last 3 years. It went up to 76. I don't know if you saw that. But
Yes.
yeah.
So how does that make you feel?
Okay. Well, as I was talking with my sister, one thing that she pointed out was, health ties in community and wellness. And if you notice, people always say that when you're depressed and unhappy, sickness comes out, and it's
Stress.
Exactly.
Stress kills.
Stress kills. So we were discussing how other countries like France, Italy, they eat just as heavy. They have wine, their cheese, their pizza, but they're living longer because of the community that they have. So that's just something that we wanted to throw in there. Think of.
Facts, not fiction. Thank you so much. Flat peer pressure could work in positive ways. There was a study done. Dialogue 340 would fight Darren in the comments. We are there. So we're gonna end up actually cut this episode a little short because we have 2 more segments, but we don't want to belabor the point. There was a study done. Don't quote me on it. They said a group of like rabbits or bunnies or something cute eat horrible diet. But the one bunny that got like cuddles and rubs, their cortisol levels went down, their cholesterol levels went down. So to your point, it's not just the food you eat, it's the environment that you live in. Because if your body's in a state of stress, everything becomes out of whack. We didn't touch on education. We didn't touch on keeping it safe. Leave that one alone. I love VIPD. Thank you so much. But we definitely want to thank everybody who was here with us in person, online, to the first episode of Dialogue 340. I'm going to wrap it up and throw Michael back in the water to swim. Darren, your last thoughts.
Well, first off, we gotta thank LaJulie for this wonderful space. It's beautiful. Please consider them for future events, small or large. Please hit them up. Final thoughts. We gotta continue doing this, right? We have to have those conversations, dialogue, but we have to have it in healthy spaces. In terms of, we can't just go like attack another person's point. We gotta listen it out. We may disagree. We could healthily disagree, but just know that if we come with with the right heart and facts, not fiction, we could figure this out together. We gotta figure this out together because we're all that we have, right? So we need each other in this life. So let's continue to live in harmony, or start to live in harmony, I should say.
All right. For me, it's simple. Dialogue 340 is a safe space, healthy space, and a safe space. It's the ability for people to come in and really have candid conversations. If you see somebody on the show and you don't like what they said, be a big grown person. Figure out why you don't like it. Don't lash out. If you don't like something that I said, or Darren in the comments, once again, I'll come in the comments once in a while. Find out why you don't like it. I've heard many people say, when you're arguing with someone, you're arguing with yourself. And if any topic, any conversation, anything we say resonates, rings, or irritates you, ask yourself this question: why? And if you could figure out why, come to Dialogue 340 and tell us, because then we can hash it out together. Then swim.
Hi, my name is Michael Bell. It's been a pleasure to talk to you guys tonight at Dialogue 340. Of course, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, follow and like our pages. Of course, we want to thank all our sponsors and the amazing team that you don't see behind here on our set and in the back and by the cameras. It would not be possible without them. We chose the name Dialogue 340 because we have a passion for our home, the 340, 340, whatever you want to call it, the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's our home. We could have left, we could have done anything we wanted to do, but we love this. We love our home, and this is why. We wanted to start a dialogue. We wanted that conversation in order to bridge a gap that's so necessary in the Virgin Islands. And we want that feedback. We want comments. We want you guys to disagree and agree with us. It helps us to continue to be better. Right there in the comments. But we want that dialogue. We don't want the occasional we go on social media and we go back and forth and we just yell at each other or we go really crazy. We want to go bigger and better. We want this podcast to be something that people can come as a community and voice concerns, get on the mic, be heard. And that's kind of what our shared vision is with Dialogue 340. We have so much more coming and in store. We are working, we are planning, we are crafting, we are storyboarding. We have so much things prepared for you guys to bring you this content. Look out for our second episode, The Feel of the People, which will be filming soon. We'd like to thank all our guests that came out tonight for this, our first ever recording for Dialogue 340. Can I get another round of applause? And of course, thank you to all our sponsors, First Choice Sounds. Of course, we got LaJulie. And of course, we got
Media One.
One Productions, keeping us clean, making us sound right. And lastly, of course, we have the ladies in the back. Thank you so much for providing the food and making sure that we're all staying nourished and happy and comfortable. And if I can admit, it's 11:59, 1 minute to midnight. Where will you be when we hit 12? The U.S. Virgin Islands has a lot of problems and a lot of interesting stories to tell, both culturally, both societally, both economically. Let's come together. Let's do Dialogue 340. We'll see you on our next episode. Feel of the people. Good night.
Michael for coming out.